So for your assignment number 1, you're going to focus on doing a literature review, and I'm going to give you some details on why this is important and why we start right out of the gate doing it. I'm going to pull up the MPH curriculum really quick. So the MPH core has a Research Methods in Public Health course that's available for you to take. Dr. Larkin teaches something similar, then I also teach one, for environmental health, but either of us that teach it can be helpful. When we teach this class, we're focusing on getting you ready to deal with the integrative learning experience, which could be scholarship in community health or EHSA 90 graduate project in environmental health. So with either one of those, you're going to be doing some sort of either research project, or you're going to be doing some sort of applied assessment or something where you're going to be creating something or evaluating something or assessing something. Before you know how to evaluate or assess or what might be most important to assess, it's important to review the scientific literature in that respective area. So you need to have a topic in mind. You may not have it fully fleshed out, and I'm happy to discuss with each person their topic need be, and we'll get better at narrowing it down to a hypothesis and research question from a research methods perspective, or an assessment question that you may have. But regardless, you're going to need to build whatever that assessment is or research methodology you're going to choose to take on based upon the scientific literature. So all program graduates have to have a graduate quality paper, and your goal in this assignment 1 here is to start making progress in that area. We require 30 peer-reviewed references to be affiliated with your topic or associated with your topic before you finish this class. That will make for a much more robust paper for this class and for your final integrated learning experience. The grading that will be done in here will be based on how well you paraphrase 15 credible sources, your formatting, your ability to identify and focus on a single topic, and your ability to do the impact factor task assessment on a separate page. So we'll get to that here in a second. So what are you going to do? Well, first you're going to want to give us a few introductory topics about what you're going to do. Here's a template. Here's your name, topic. I put examining the relationship between antibiotic-resistant gastrointestinal illness and waterborne fecal indicator bacteria exposure. That may be more than what you have the ability to do, probably would be. Another topic a previous student did was the effectiveness of communication on the compliance of public swimming pools. He was doing an internship with the health department where he had access to generate some data that allowed him to be able to do that topic. So you have to have your name, your topic. Now, paraphrase statements. Why am I having you paraphrase statements? Because when you look at peer-reviewed scientific literature, rarely will you see quotation marks used. You are in a scientific discipline, and public health is a scientific discipline. We're not historians for the most part. Our research, our backgrounds, our introductions, they're drafted where the authors of that background or introduction have paraphrased others. I got an example here. Swimming in fecally contaminated recreational waters has consistently been associated with gastrointestinal illness. And they cite the article. Or it'd be better if there were some numbers in there. Here's one. From 2003 to 2012, 3,000 to 5,000 emergency room visits in the United States have involved pool chemical health events such as these. Roughly half of these were less than 18 years old at the time of the hospital visit. This is paraphrasing information that was obtained from that article. This is not a direct quote from this article. We paraphrase in the sciences. So if you need help figuring out how to better do that, reach out to me and I'll do my best to help you through examples. I provided a couple examples with this. Enterobacteriaceae isolates with antibiotic resistance have moved from the clinic to the environment and are now frequently being observed in household drinking water throughout Africa. So again, these authors did not exactly say this in their paper. There's probably not even 3 or 4 words in a row at most in that paper. We don't plagiarize and we don't quote in the sciences. So just because we don't quote and use quotation marks does not give us the authority to plagiarize. So we paraphrase. And in some cases, like this article here that said swimming in fecally contaminated recreational waters is consistently associated with gastrointestinal illness, sometimes you'll see a separation and additional articles that further substantiate that claim. And there may be several that are out there that you cite that would substantiate that claim. That's how you'll see things appear in the peer-reviewed literature. You're going to be writing like a scientist. You're going to have a master's degree in public health. So you're going to be a master in a scientific discipline here really shortly if you're not already a master in some other scientific discipline. So you need to identify 15 peer-reviewed articles. We want to have 15 independent statements. The peer-reviewed articles don't all have to come from the same journal. They probably won't, but they don't have to come from 15 unique journals either. 8 of them could come from, a really common journal in whatever area you're studying. All right. I'm not going to obligate you to using the Environmental Health Perspectives journal format like the examples I've got listed down here. But whatever format you use, you're going to need to stick with it, and it's going to have to be consistent. When I say consistent, I mean this is part of the technical writing aspect. If I submitted a journal article to the journal or to any technical report authority, and I had this kind of set up here on this one, and I routinely just had periods behind these, which you'll see on some of them, but I don't do it here and I don't do it there. Maybe I've got the year not there. I've got it at the end. All the information's there. They'll kick it back. They'll say, do your part. Get the format right. The format needs to be consistent. In many cases, all cases, the journals will give you a specific format to use. So for me, I need to see paraphrase statements from you. I then need to see the references. There are ways of also incorporating the references where you could potentially cite differently. So it could be like a study by Okeki et al. 2015 demonstrated that. So that is one way of doing a in-text citation there, or you can do it like that. How do we do these? If you have any questions, again, let me know, but when do we use the et al? That's when there are 3, 4, 5, or many more authors. If there's 2 authors, instead of like here, there's probably 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know. But if we had 2 authors, it might be Morgan and Smith, 2011. Some journal formats have a comma. I'm asking you, in this case, to use the Environmental Health Perspectives format. If you want to use something else, you can, but please be consistent across the board. Please don't be mixing and matching formats or you're going to get credit taken off. All right, so paraphrase your topic, identify 15 peer-reviewed articles, provide single sentence or a few sentences paraphrasing what's going on in the sentence. It should be contributing towards your topic, whatever your topic may be. Then you're going to develop an alphabetized reference list. Alphabetized reference list. Here's a reference list that was given to me in the past for this assignment. There were only 14 references, not 15, so that was a problem. And a lot of the formatting looks pretty good, but one thing that could have been done was they linked the references number 1 with line number 1, number 2 with line number 2. My request here for you is that you alphabetize these. If you have the author at the end of it, I'll be able to find the author very quickly by just looking in the alphabetical order. So they should be in alphabetical order. All right, pay close attention to the format. Your alphabetized list at the end should be numbered, so 1 to 15. Also, now this is the last part, you know, I want a list of all the journal names and an impact score, so you can develop this however you want. It doesn't have to necessarily be an impact score either, by the way. These might be harder to come by. Sometimes they're easy. Whatever you use, let me know what you use. So if you use H-5 index, you can use that for all of them. Or if you do both of them, tell me, you know, this is the impact factor. Some journals you're not going to be able to find an impact factor on, not one that's reliable. So let's go through some examples here. I'm going to bring over here and pull up Google. If I type in Lancet impact factor, Google already knows. It's such a commonly searched thing. It's an incredibly high impact factor, over 60. But if I type in some other journal that's not as well known, like Environmental Health, it's still a good journal. Well, it's got it, 4.4. Usually anything over 2.0 in public health is viewed as acceptable at research universities for tenure and promotion requirements, where faculty are encouraged to publish a certain number of papers. There are other journals that are not as good that are not going to show up, and I'm trying to think of an example of one. And no offense to our professional association, Journal of Environmental Health Impact Factor. Google's not, this is not the Journal of Environmental Health, this is the Journal Environmental Health. So that's environmental health, that's its impact factor. Journal of Environmental Health, you're not going to see the Journal of Environmental Health's impact factor published very widely because it's not very high. They don't get recited a lot for what they publish. So in the event you can't find it, an alternative would be to use Google Scholar's H-5 index. I'm going to use this particular Simago Journal and Country rank one here in a second. The real impact factors are available through Web of Science and Clavariate Stats, but you have to pay for it or be at a university that has access to it. And we don't have access to it, to my knowledge. We may at the library, I'm not for sure. But all right, so here I can search American Journal of Public Health, and I can find what the H index is. I can click on it and it'll tell me the H index and tell me a lot of other statistics about these. I can type in Journal of Environmental Health. And I'm looking for Journal of Environmental Health, and I'm not really seeing it. There it is. Published by the publisher is the National Environmental Health Association. So the H index is 31. And then you can see trends and things like that over the years. So the average document published in the Journal of Environmental Health goes uncited. Most of them are less than 1. Most of them are less than 1 in their first 2 years, and they stay less than 1 in their 3 years. So just information here. If I were to look at a different journal, International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, its H index is 92. The average article published in 2018 in the first 2 years looks like it was cited about 2.8 to 3 times in the first 2 years. So you also see it has 92 articles that have been published that have ever had 92 or more citations. So that's what the H index is. When we looked at the We had the Journal of Environmental Health, the US one right here. They've had 31 articles in their history from 1973 to 2020, 31 articles that have been published 31 or more, that have been cited 31 or more times. Another one, we'll go up to Nature, big time journal, right? We'll open up Nature. They've had 1,159 articles that have been cited 1,159 times or more. So the H index is how many articles have been cited that have had H number of citations. So before this can go to 1,160, some other published article is going to need to have 1,160 citations. And this is forever. So, but any given 2-year period, once an article is published in Nature, usually within the first 2 years, it's been cited 28 times, or 27.764 times. So that's the H. That kind of the first 2 years is kind of looking more at like how many citations per document. When we look at Google Scholar metrics, the H-5 index is very commonly used. So this is the H index in the last 5 years. You can actually click on these too, by the way. So in the last 5 years, the Journal of Nature has had 376 citations, or 376 publications that have had 376 citations or more. And then you can click on this and you can see them. Here is the highest published one in the last 5 years, or highest cited one, 27,375 citations. And then I can go all the way to the very end. I have to scroll through all those to get to the very end one. We'll pick on one that's smaller than the Journal of Nature so you can get an appreciation for what this H-5 index means if it's not already clear. Up here in the top there's a little magnifying glass, so that'll allow us to search. Now let's type in environmental health. It's a little different than impact factor, but still a pretty good way of looking at it. So this is the most widely cited, or among the most widely cited journals of environmental health perspectives. They've had 87 publications in the last 5 years that have been cited 87 or more times. If we go down here, I'm looking for the Journal of Environmental Health, and I see environmental health. Journal of Environmental Health does not make the cut in the top 20, meaning it's got less than 18. So if I type in Journal of, I can probably find it. There it is, Journal of Environmental Health. It only has 14. So if I click on that, 14, these are the top papers that have ever been published in the Journal of Environmental Health in the last 5 years. And there's going to be 18 of, or was it not 18, but 14, right? 14 of them that have had 14 citations or more. So here are the 14 papers that have had more than 14 citations. And then I can click on that 14 and it shows you which 14 papers or citations happened for that one. And there are the 14 documented citations. With Google Scholar, if an author has their information on Google Scholar, they will have a profile and they will have an H index. Mine may be okay for EKU, but if I was at a research university, it would need to be a lot higher. So I can click at EKU and you can see who our most well-cited people are in terms of total citations. Click on Dr. Wygant from psychology. You can also see their H index. This is not the H-5 index. This is the H-5 index. This is the total H over their lifetime or career. This is the H-5 index. So in the last 5 years, he's had 5 publications that have had 24 or more citations. And you can see kind of these numbers. If I were to go to another school, I don't know if one of my academic grandfathers is on here or not, Bill, Dr. Mitch. So, Bill's one of my academic mentors. He's been cited 22,369 times. His H-index is 79, meaning he's had 79 publications that have had 79 or more citations. In the last 5 years, he's had 44 that have had 44 or more citations. So that's how you do the H-5 index. So on the assignment, if you'd rather use the H-5 index because it's easier and it's accessible, feel free to use the H-5 index instead of the impact factor. So in choosing your topic, I'm encouraging you to try to think of something that's going to be doable for you. And if it's not doable, or if you had questions about it, I can interact with you. But our goal here is to get you moving in the direction to where you're familiar with scientific report writing and technical report writing, and you're moving in the direction of being able to complete your integrated learning experience graduate level document. So if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I hope that this has been helpful and informative. Google Scholar and Scholar Metrics are relatively new on the scene. So you should be able to also use library resources, EBSCO, and those types of things if you want to. Google Scholar is a great resource to use for finding papers. If you're interested in finding papers, you can put your topics in there. You can search by year. Generally speaking, we like to use newer papers if you can find them in the last 5 or 10 years. Finding papers related to the public health significance of your topic, you can type in things like odds ratio or risk ratio, and you'll end up getting access to articles that way. For now, if you want to use the abstract because you can't afford or can't, don't buy any articles, by the way. We've got access at the library to articles. But if you can extract a little bit of information from the abstract, feel free to use that. You may be able to search the actual paper title in traditional Google and sometimes find a version. So there's a PDF version here through ResearchGate maybe. You may reach out to the authors. So ResearchGate used to be a lot like the music program called Napster. You remember Napster? It was a way that people used to download music back in the day illegally, bootlegged. People would upload songs, people would download it. Sometimes they'd also download viruses. And then the famous, metal group Metallica sued a bunch of kids and people on Napster. And when they did that, when Metallica did that, they got a lot of people, upset, but artists were literally getting their music stolen from them. Well, what was happening in the research community where people were uploading tremendous amounts of information to ResearchGate, sometimes even authors, and they weren't legally allowed to do it. And people were downloading it, and the publishing houses weren't getting any money for it. And some people were downloading troves of data and articles and then uploading them on here just as do-gooders for the world, but it presented a lot of problems because publishers still have businesses to operate, peer-reviewed processes to run. So ResearchGate and academia.edu really had a lot of the free stuff taken down. So 3 years ago, there was a lot of stuff that was available for free that you could argue may have been stolen, and it's not there anymore. But there's still a lot of stuff that is out there. And again, authors in many cases can use ResearchGate, as I do, for in many cases publishing preprints. So you can download preprints sometimes that are not necessarily published by a journal, whereas the text is in a journal, but the text in a preprint is available to you, just like it's available through the National Library of Medicine for a lot of federally funded health-related research, as I showed you in the last video. So as we go further along this process, I'm happy to provide more information. If you need more help on how do I find articles, what do I do, let me know and I'll do my best to try to help you. Being at a university, we have access to interlibrary loan, where we can download full versions of articles with the support of our library during an interlibrary loan request, and I can show you how to do that. So if you have questions, let me know. I'm going to stop this video here, and I hope that this has been helpful. Thank you.